everyone has read a comic once in a while. But how are the stories written? Who comes up with the ideas? And most importantly, how is it drawn? Stage 1. Ideation, concept. This is the starting point of the project. To create a great comic, you need to first start with a great idea. The central concept for a comic can come from anyone but is typically developed off of a writer or editor's idea for a storyline. Stage 2. Plot development. The writer expands the basic concept of the comic into a workable story outline. All of the story elements are arranged with consideration for pacing and character development. Think of this as the planning stage for how the story unfolds. Stage 3. Script. The writer, using the plot outline as a guide, writes the script for the comic. There are two common methods for scripting a comic: the Marvel method, plot style, and full script, sometimes referred to as DC style. I will explain the difference between the two in a bit. Aside from tweaks and edits, this is the writer's primary window for determining the story. The script is the basis for everything that follows. In certain cases, a writer may forego this stage and instead give verbal plot notes to the artist, who develops the visual storytelling through thumbnails. Stage 4. Art production. Following the script writing stage, multiple artists produce the comic based off of the writer's script. Penciling happens first, followed by inking and finally coloring of the comic. These steps are sometimes done digitally, in whole or in part. The size of the art team on a comic can vary greatly. In some cases, a single creator will handle all aspects of art by themselves. Throughout this process, the editor of the comic facilitates the various contributors and oversees the quality of the product. Stage 4A. Pencils. The penciler is often viewed as the primary contributing artist and determines the look of the comic. This person lays down the base drawing upon which all further art builds. He or she starts by sketching thumbnails, practice panel compositions, from the script provided by the writer. After thumbnails are approved, the penciler illustrates the full comic in pencil. Some pencilers skip the thumbnailing stage and work out their panel compositions directly on the page. The advent of digital comic production affords artists the option of penciling within a program like Photoshop. Stage 4B. Inks. The inker is responsible for taking the rough pencils provided by the penciler and using them as a guide to produce the final line art of the comic in ink. More than simply tracing the pencils, an inker makes choices based off of which lines are necessary for the finished image and can correct earlier problems in the penciling phase. Inkers use a variety of subtle techniques to affect light and shadow in a composition. Some artists skip penciling altogether and draw in ink. Stage 4C. Colors. The final line art of the comic is handed off to the colorist, who uses a computer, in most cases, to color the black and white images. The idea for this stage is that the colors not compete with the line art. Instead, they should complement or enhance it. Comics intended to be black and white skip this step. Stage 5. Letters. After the comic art is complete, a letterer inserts dialogue balloons, boxes into the panels of the comic and places all of the text. From the thumbnail stage onward, consideration is taken for proper placement of dialogue balloons so that they don't compete with the composition or cover important art. Letterers generally work on a computer, although some letter by hand. Stage 6. Editorial. While active throughout the comic creation process, at this phase the comic's editor gives it a last-minute check-over in order to fix or resolve any remaining content issues prior to publication. Digital comics, including webcomics, may not have an editor or be intended for release in print. Because of this, some or all of the following steps may be combined or skipped. Stage 7. Printing. If the comic is being sold as a physical product, it is submitted to a printer where a certain number of copies are printed based off of sales estimates. This process can take several weeks depending on the size of the order. Numerous printers take small orders. Self-published comics can be financed through personal investment or fundraising through means such as Kickstarter. If your budget is especially limited, you can photocopy your comic at a business that offers printing services. FedEx is one such example. Stage 8. Marketing. Marketing a comic is an ongoing process that happens parallel to the production of the comic. Marketing takes many forms: press releases sent to media outlets, advertisements, both print and web, sending advance copies to the media, and coverage on the convention circuit. As a solo creator, marketing is a different animal. Social media can be wielded to locate potential audiences for your comic. If you remain active and maintain a presence on the web, you will gradually attract interest. Stage 9. Distribution. Once the initial order of your comic is printed, it needs to be delivered in some way to the buying public. Distributors, Diamond Comics primarily, have a network in place for shipping comics to local retailers throughout the United States. The downside is you need to sell through quickly. There are alternative methods of distribution, such as conventions or direct sales online, through services like Comixology. For DIYers, the budget and scope of the comic determines the distribution needs.
So why are we going to the comic book store?